Hello and welcome to the demo on support for content security policy with DX. My name is Thomas Zurek, and I've been with the product engineering team since 2002, working on various areas. And today you'll see how to use content security policy. Content security policy is a fairly well-known defense against cross-site scripting attacks. It's becoming more common in the industry to require this. What CSP does basically is provides a certain set of protection where the server can define which scripts are valid and which scripts should be okay to be executed. And that's not only scripts, but also inline styles and images or similar things that were asynchronously loaded in the little sample here. We might be okay if the DX server sends back that ABC.js, the dev CSS are loaded, but not requests to any other domains. Even through those domains might possibly allow from a cross-site scripting perspective to be loaded. So how is it implemented? How it works basically is that we have a new filter, and that filter reads the page metadata and the overall configuration and adds nouns configurations to an according response that makes it possible to execute those styles. We had to make a few changes to the out-of-the-box definitions here to render those scripts, because ideally we do not want to have any inline scripts being rendered, but load them externally. Now, this is of course documented, and we shipped this with the container release 1.9.2, and of course it will also be rolled up into CF20. If you're still on CF19, we also have an APAR available that you could possibly get in case you need this feature already on CF19. So the documentation is here. We give a little bit overview of how it works, what is currently supported and not supported. There are some limitations, so the main idea is for using is for end users, so not necessarily for the edit mode or with Dojo, but for regular rendering of the system. So in here we have some details on like how do you enable it, and for configuring it, we outline that you can run a configuration task, and then afterwards you set page metadata, and that page metadata, if enabled, then sets the according mode. So if we jump back here for a second and take a look at the resource environment provider settings that are configured by default, we differentiate between report mode and a regular header. In that case, you can see the header accordingly come back, and in the report mode, the browser reports any possible issues, but still executes any scripts or CSS accordingly. That's a very good way on how you can enable this to see if any of your custom code has any challenges with that. Let's take a look at seeing this in action. So here on my welcome page, I have enabled CSP. Let's take a look at the headers here. Typically on the console, I might see any kind of CSP related issues. But if we look at our request here, we can also see, make this a little bigger here, that there is a content security policy report only being returned. And there's a unique nouns being generated, and nouns being 128 bits as well. And in there, we pass back the nouns, and these are basically any script that is defined with that nouns is safe to be executed by the browser. And if we look at the markup itself, we can also see that there are some nouns coming back for style sheets that are directly executed as well. So if we look in here, for instance, for nouns, we will see that the nouns is included for anything that is executed possibly inline, because we want to make sure that nothing unsafe gets executed or loaded. Look at another one, for instance here, for a style. For this layout style here, we see the nouns being included. So we've tested this for non-edit mode, and we have also tested the classic pattern of using a WCM page. So if we look at the console again, and I click on a page that has some WCM content, we see that there's no warnings or errors being displayed. On some of the pages that, for instance, have a sample portlet on here, you can see these kind of errors or warnings appearing, and you can see what the actual issue is. In this case here,
it's missing a noun that matches the nouns that we provide. So there are some styles here being available that are invalid and therefore are like inline styles not getting executed. So what happens, of course, you want to enable CSP, and now you're wondering what would happen if I enable the edit mode. So we've coded it in a way that if the edit mode is enabled after the initial load, the browser will execute any of that, and we won't block the execution of edit mode and configuration in case the business user wants to make any changes. And while we're here, let's take a quick look at any kind of configuration settings that we might have to make. So if we go into the page settings dialog and take a look at our properties for our page, and we click on advanced, we can see the setting that is set in this case here, com HCL CSP enabled is set to true. There's a lot more details in the info center when you want to learn more, like for instance, how does the flow work, what are the nouns values. All of these things are defined in detail, and if you have any questions and the documentation is not sufficient, please feel free to reach out to us or to me. My name is Thomas Zurek, and you can reach me at thomas.zurek@hcl.com. Thank you for your interest.